Hi, breakfast cereal eaters. This is something a little bit different. It's a radio interview with Paul Ross on cereal collecting in general, where I've sort of overlaid some visuals as well. Hope you like it.
And we've also got somebody coming up in the programme this morning who is a collector of something that was, you might think, absolutely throwaway, but they've survived unbelievably in their tens of thousands, which is the little tiny giveaways you used to get in cereals. They may be coming back. We're not sure about that. The law changed a while back, which meant that they were less able to advertise that kind of stuff in children's television and children's programming, and that's fragmented anyway. But we're talking to somebody who's got thousands and thousands of pieces of old cereal box memorabilia, little collectibles and stuff, everything from Simpsons characters, Star Wars characters, to like divers when you put bicarb of soda in, they go under the water, that kind of thing. Was that something that you had in your house? Did you spot with your brothers over that ever? Did you take it in turns to see who got the toy out of the box, or was it whoever found it and opened the box first?
No, it's whoever opened the box first, and then we had the privilege of waving it in any other brothers' faces that it was ours and not theirs. We got CDs, especially in the late 90s. I just can't remember CDs, plastic toys. One that stands out for me is, do you remember Beyblade at all? Was that big?
I do remember Beyblade. I remember Beyblade. But the boys at their schools were playing. I remember very clearly.
We were obsessed because it was around about that. I was about that age where it became really big, and they used to have in cereal the little attack discs that you'd stick on the top of the Beyblade. Right. So they gave away those for nothing. And seeing it like back at Beyblades were like 7, 8 quid, 9 quid, back in the early 2000s. So to get one of those little plastic bits for free, even though really it's just a bit of plastic, it was, when you're 9, 10, 11, great. Okay. I don't have to pay anything to get like a little bit I can put on it. And if it breaks or whatever, there'll be another one in the cereal box. I can open that and replace it. So that's kind of, for some reason, that's the one I remember more than any of the others.
It is weird the things that survive though, isn't it? Because I like with the toys with McDonald's Happy Meals. You go to a car boot fair, even some collectibles fairs, and there are people who've got hundreds of them, and completely the Snoopy ones, or the, what's the one I said? Oh, the, Rugrats ones, and those are the Rugrats toys in cereal boxes. And I suppose somebody must think, I'll play with one, and I'll keep one pristine in the wrapper. But they wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes in my house. I can't think anybody.
No, not mine either.
But they're the valuable ones, aren't they? The collectible ones are the ones that have almost unplayed with, which is
to say with like Happy Meal toys and Burger King toys as well. Like there is a market for that. I don't really remember the McDonald's ones when I was a child though. It all just seems like it was a very long time ago.
Well, I remember them only because, I've got my children probably 10 years younger than you. My youngest is 10 years younger than you. And it was always and one of them didn't really like the hamburgers. We just asked for McDonald's and always want the chicken thing or whatever that you got from
Nuggets or whatever
in a Happy Meal, so they could get the toy.
And really?
That's a triumph of marketing over their main product, I suppose, isn't it? Which is why they did it, and why in the end the government said, let's stop doing it for cereals. But we're talking to somebody who's effectively he's retired, but he's made it his kind of hobby, and he is like he even got his own YouTube channel, which is worth a look, called Cereal Mad. And he plays the old adverts for it. And we found one from a cereal I'd completely forgotten about called Strike from about 96, which was linked to the Premier League. There's some of the big names then, Matteo, David Ginola turns up on it, Burger was on it, Patrick Burger, advertising a cereal. And basically just saying, and I think you didn't get toys, you got, little booklets, like little fake football programs with information on individual players, which again, if you were 9, 10, 11, I mean, that would have been great to have collected. Swap them with your mates.
Yeah, I think I was just too young to remember that coming out. But I'm pretty sure Michael Owen had a cereal as well in the early 2000s. And that was when Michael Owen seemed to be on everything. I remember having I think it was a Michael Owen Soccer School DVD, which essentially for the first 10 minutes, he was blasting in shots from the penalty spot against some poor 12-year-old goalkeeper who had no chance. And it was 90 minutes of drills, mainly with Michael Owen being semi-awkward and hosting these drills with, I think Neville Southall was in it as well. Unless I think he was in there.
Anybody's
as well.
got that and it's playable. Can you give us a call?
I think I'm going to have to go to my dad's and find it because he'll be in the DVD file. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, definitely.
There's another one with a Brazilian soccer skills as well. Which I can't remember who was on that one, but I'll have to dig that one out and show you.
So these days there'd be a separate CD saying, here's how you really fake being badly hurt. If somebody changes you
with Harry Kane.
Here's your guide. Shh, don't tell mum and dad. Don't tell Paul Ross. Your guide to the dark arts of football. I remember when Owen, it's interesting how people kind of not come and go, but we know each generation has heroes. When Gary Lineker first started doing the crisp adverts.
Yes.
They did one based around his name, which was Salt and Lineker.
Yeah, I remember those.
Smokey Beckham and Cheese and Owen. It's like a gift, was it, for those three players? But I suppose they thought, what can we do? Nobody else has got a suitable name. But the money they must have paid for those guys to get involved in it. Similarly with, even though it was mundane as breakfast cereals, I mean, that must have been absolute cash in the bank to have done that.
Yeah, that's true. I think they missed the trick. They could have done Ready Seaman. Maybe not that one.
No, maybe not that one. Maybe it's maybe it's a different aisle of the supermarket. maybe even a different kind of shop completely. I suspect that we're heading for...
Ready Southgate, there we go.
That was Alex Irons on Clips of the Week with H&J. Once again, it's me.
No, they're off this week.
Listen, that one's worth saying. That's a keeper. That'll be on next week, trust me. That will be on... Somebody will be sending it to them right now. It's me, Paul Ross. It's Alex Irons on TalkSport TalkRadio. If we're allowed to continue broadcasting live till 5. Ready? What did you say?
Across the UK, overnights with Paul Ross.
Now, you don't need me to tell you that everything seems to be going up, and by the way, up in price. And there's a rather depressing bit of news last month in the Grocer magazine. All the papers picked it up saying that our breakfast cereal is also going to be increasing in price for all the usual reasons, plus, of course, to do with transport, to do with problems with wheat harvest, all that kind of stuff. But that made me think, you know what? I think for a while now we've been missing out on the cereal front, because I remember the thrill in the Ross household when a new box of Kellogg's or Nestle or some new cereal will be opened, and inside will be, it wasn't Christmas, it wasn't my birthday, a toy, a present. We'd fight over it, argue over it, we'd try and collect the sets, and those days seem sadly long gone. I've not seen them in a British cereal box, I think, for something like 20 years. So I was delighted to stumble across some on the YouTube channel called Cereal Mad, and it took me right back to my childhood. Here's a clip from that channel which celebrates those breakfast giveaways from back in the day.
Hi again, breakfast cereal eaters. Welcome to another edition of What's in the Box. So what have we got this time? Well, this is a nice one from 1960, and it's Nabisco Shreddies Model Skin Diver and Underwater Sea Creature Offer. Hi again, breakfast cereal eaters, and welcome to another edition of What's in the Box. So what have we got this time? Well, this is from 2001, and it's Weetabix Weetos Rugrats in Paris Pencil Toppers. Bit of a mouthful, but let's take a look.
And the man whose voice you heard there, the man behind that channel, and the man who's an ace collector, and I think also dealer in that kind of memorabilia, joins us now, the fantastic Nick Symes from Cereal Mad. Good morning, Nick. I mean, it's hypnotic watching you on YouTube, because it's all our childhoods come flooding back, and then my children's childhoods as well. I've been watching it with one of my daughters recently. How long have you been collecting, immersing yourself back into this world of cereal giveaway toys?
Hi, Paul. Well, it started actually about 25 years ago. I went to a collector's fair and just happened to come across a stall which had a load of these old toys that I remember from my youth in the early 70s. And you described it earlier, that thrill, that nostalgia just came flooding back as I remembered the sets. I remembered the fact that I never ever got the set when I was a kid, and always seemed to get the doubles. And I just had this urge to sort of just see if I actually had any of the stuff. So I went back to my parents' house. They were natural hoarders, which was great, and went through the loft, dug out this sort of box of goodies, and from there it basically just bloomed. I sort of went online. I made a whole load of contacts with other collectors, and the great thing is, with the likes of eBay and things like that nowadays, I've been able to collect and complete the sets that I never was able to as a kid. And for me, it's the thrill of that. It's that thrill of completion, and that sort of nostalgia of what it was like when I was a kid, really, getting these toys for the first time.
And as we know from the channel, we heard a bit there, you've actually got some of the boxes as well, these original boxes. Some go back quite a long way, don't they?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky. I mean, it's amazing the things that people actually keep. You know, a lot of people have kept these things in their loft because certainly in the 60s, 70s, people would cut the backs of the packets out and they'd use them to, I don't know, store records in or write music lyrics down or whatever, do some homework on. So you've still got records from that side of it. But also, I was really fortunate that somebody that worked in Nestle, actually, when they closed their sort of manufacturing in Welling, they were clearing out all their archives. So I was able to acquire quite a lot of that from the 70s as well. But also, since the 90s, I've been, every cereal box I have, I keep a flat packet and store it away somewhere. So, yes, there's quite a collection. And for me, I love the packets because that's where all the sort of great artwork is, beautiful sort of colours on it. And it tends to be the thing that most people throw away as well.
Well, also, I mean, some of these cereals have come and gone. I remember one called Golden Nuggets, which had Klondike Pete in the advert. So it was kind of about the California Gold Rush or somewhere. And I think that cereal may have fallen victim to the I think then Labour government's health drive against too much sugar in kids' food, and also too much kind of almost manipulative advertising for children. Is that what paid to the cereal giveaways, do you think? The fact that people are trying to make children eat more healthily?
Well, I mean, firstly, Golden Nuggets is actually still out there, believe it or not.
Blimey.
But it had a break from the sort of 80s up to the late 90s, and then it came back.
And was it Klondike Pete? Am I right? Was he in the adverts?
It was Klondike Pete and Partner, but sadly Pete has disappeared off the front of the packet in the last couple of years because, again, all this pressure from parents about sort of mascots unduly influencing them to buy the cereal has sort of paid to him. But yeah, I mean, the toys really had their sort of, the end of it really came in sort of about 2005, 6, 7. That's when the sort of freebies stopped. Kellogg's have done a couple of offers since, actually, in the last few years, but they really are, few and far between now. And that's really all down to the fact, I think, that well, you've got loads of issues. You've got the issues about the health, and the fact that cereals were seen as being unhealthy. You've got obviously this drive around the plastics, which is understandable at the minute, and sort of pressure from parents just generally. So and probably cost as well. I'd imagine cost was a factor for a lot of this.
When did these start? I presume they started in America, this idea of giving away something free in cereals to make children choose that particular cereal and pester their mum and dad to buy that one for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of the UK, though, the earliest sort of free gift I've got is actually it was a sort of a little card. It's called Funny Jungle, and it was a little booklet that you got for giving 2 Kellogg's packet tops. This was in the 1930s.
Wow!
But the actual free gifts actually inside the packets. Certainly the toys, the plastics, that was in the late 50s. That was 1957. And they literally all followed suit. I mean, as to who was first, I think it was Kellogg's. But Kellogg's, you had Nabisco doing sort of offers like the diver that you were just playing there a minute ago. You had Sugar Puffs doing racing cars and Red Indians. So they were all doing it late 50s. And then it just took off really all the way through the 60s. There were some fantastic offers with all the Jerry Anderson and that lot. Sports obviously appeared a lot in the time. Certainly Nabisco and Welga, they did a lot with covering sort of all the various sports activities. Tended not to be toys. It tended to be sort of almost like factual packets with tips on how to play cricket better and things like that. And of course, a lot of these cereal companies gave cards away as well. So, you had a real sort of variety of offers given.
Because I've got a few albums that I bought at car boot sales. Ones I had the kids from PG Tips, and they used to give away little cards. And you think this, I mean, it was always, we don't really seem to get that little kind of bonus. There was something quite cohesive for the family about that without being too pretentious, that you all think, what's in the latest quarter pound of tea we've got, how soon can we fill up the album, that kind of thing. Is it possible for you to tell us how many bits and pieces you've got in your collection? I'm guessing we're talking hundreds or even thousands. Would that be right, Nick?
We're talking thousands. I wouldn't even like to think about how many items there are in there. I've had to curb it down a little bit because it was taking over my loft. I mean, I've got a very small display in my study, but the loft itself is packed with probably about 7 or 8 crates of these things.
Wow! And you deal in them as well. I mean, could people get on, if you've got doubles? Can they go to you and say, "Have you got the I don't know the dive from 1992 or whatever it would have been?" Yeah,
I mean that's the great thing is that there's certainly a sort of a collection group out there, and that I sort of reach out to, and I trade with people, and we swap things and sell things. But the good thing about cereal is it actually covers all sorts of collections, because if you think about it, the actual sort of subjects that they cover has been so varied over the years. I think most people who collect something or other will have got some sort of cereal-related item in there, whether it's sports or cars.
Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that stuff at his moment, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, your brother's probably got loads of it in his stuff, hasn't he?
Well, his big thing, my brother Jonathan collects toy robots, like Japanese robots, but he has got some, because I think there was some that were given away in space stuff. Major Matt Mason from Mattel is one of his collection things, and I think there was lots of those space link things in 60s series.
Shredded Wheat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shredded Wheat did all sorts of offers with Matt Mason on it, and then of course you had some fantastic little aliens called Crater Critters in the 70s that were given in sugar smacks, so they've had all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
And what's the most, maybe not most valuable, what's the most you paid for an item in your collection, would you say, Nick?
The most I paid actually was I managed to get hold of a solid gold Weeto. So Weeto's was giving away this offer. It was a bit like Willy Wonka and his
the golden ticket, yeah.
Yeah, so they had 3 golden tickets in packets of cereal, and if you had one of those, you could actually win this sort of golden Weeto itself in a presentation box. So I managed to actually find somebody actually had one of those that had to pay £100 for. So that's the most expensive I've ever paid on anything. But to be honest, most things are cheap. I mean, that's the beauty of the hobby. Part of the reason for getting into it, because of the nostalgia and everything else, is the fact that shall we say, it's a bit niche, a bit unusual, and I found that, there was actually very little information on it, but you could pick most of this stuff up in sort of bargain boxes at toy fairs and things like that. So there are clearly lots more expensive things like Doctor Who and those sorts of offers, but most of the stuff is relatively cheap.
And I bet you're like me, somebody who haunts car boot fairs, when you're looking around for the Holy Grail, when people have loads of this. I've seen, for example, recently a real spate of people selling the little toys that came with Happy Meals or the toys inside Kinder Eggs, because of course somebody will collect everything. And I know you've got some stuff in your collection which is football related. I know you're not a huge football fan yourself, but because there was a short-lived cereal, I think by Kellogg's, called Strike, wasn't it? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a short one that came out in the 90s, and I think again this was a push from Kellogg's to try and do something that was a little bit healthier. So it was one of these sort of whole grain cereals, and it lasted. It probably only lasted actually about a couple of years, and the only really decent offer or free gift that they gave were these little sort of booklets, fact booklets that came inside. But, it came and it went. But it's not just been Kellogg's. I mean, Nestle did one as well, tied in with Michael Owen, called Sporties.
Right.
That was in 2001, 2002. And that was a great one, because when they actually launched that, they actually had 3 different types of packet for the same cereal. So you could actually collect these different packets as well. So with Michael sort of playing football on the front, and then you had different fact cards as well that came with some of the later offers.
Well, courtesy of the Cereal Mad channel, which is the man behind it, Nick Symes, Cereal Mad on YouTube, I managed to get hold of a copy of the advert for Strike back in it. It features David Ginola, who I then think was playing for Newcastle, Patrick Berger, who was then at Liverpool, Karol Poborski, Czech international at Man United, and also Dominic Matteo, a Liverpool player, all to promote a breakfast cereal and the little booklets of facts. Have a listen to this advert, folks.
I've come to England to improve my skills.
I have come to England to learn everything about football.
I have come to England because I want to win things.
New Kellogg Strike, the only cereal endorsed by the best league in the world and the players who make it the best.
I have come to England because I am still hungry.
New Kellogg Strike, more football than you can eat.
And I think the Premier League would have only been, 4 or 5 years old then, so mid-90s. Is there something you'd love to add to your collection, Nick? Somebody listening might have touched on a biscuit tin. Is there a holy grail for you of these kind of things?
The items I love are basically items from the 1970s. So I'm keen to sort of collect some of the items, like the Quaker Critters and the Tom and Jerry offers that came out. And there was some nice little sort of, they're really innocuous little sort of things. They're called the Seabed Serenaders, and they're these sort of underwater animals playing musical instruments. I would love to get packets for any of those ones, because I just have yet to see one.
And would you rather have them out of the little sachets, the plastic homes? Is it fine to get them? Would you rather have them inside those, unopened?
Well, I used to be sad enough to actually collect everything mint as well in packet when I could, but now I've got to the point where I realise, no, let's just get an example and try and just see an example. And to be honest, if they're open, you can actually put them out on display and you can look at them and sort of see what they're like. And that was part of the reason for doing the YouTube channel, actually, was to bring these things to life a bit and demonstrate them and show them what they're like, rather than just sort of have them locked away in my dusty loft.
It's really worth a look, folks. Cereal Mad. It's a great instant wander down memory lane. I mean, it's one of the things I have to be careful. I have to ration myself on Cereal Mad, Nick, because I can start and suddenly I've lost 2 hours there with all the great adverts from the past. You've been a top guest, matey. Really enjoyed talking to you. That was Nick Symes there, the main man behind Cereal Mad, one of our YouTube channels. So if you heard a collection of, I suppose you call it breakfast cereal memorabilia from back in the day, talking to me, Paul Ross, on TalkSport and TalkRadio. We're live till 5, and that was Nick Symes. Cheers, Nick.